Is news which is there in live mint or mint.com, and it is related to GitHub. And just we would like to discuss whether it should be considered as part of security issue or not, and then we'll start with the chapter. Okay. Now, the news is generic news. I am reading it from the newspaper, so there is nothing against from our side. It is not mentioned to be taken against any community, person, people, or anybody, but just to be gone through in terms of what is happening in the market and what could be the issues with that. Okay, so we are not going into any aspects of community, religion, or any other aspects, just for informative purpose. Okay. I think everybody knows what is GitHub, isn't it? Yeah. Yes. Very good. And okay. So, similar. So as we have already mentioned, for every good thing that we have, there is a bad thing that it can be used for, isn't it? So when the atom bomb was actually generated, the idea was not to bombard someone. The idea was totally different. Okay. So if you look from that particular angle, today's context is similar. So I'm just sharing the news. I'll go through the portion of that news in a very brief manner, not in a detailed manner, but yes, that would be very much important. Just give me a second, and then I'll start sharing the chapter once we have discussed this very fast. Okay. So this is today's news. As I'm sharing it with you, you can see the. I think the screen is visible to all. Yeah. So the news is this. It's a question. What is the GitHub roles in Bully by controversy? Okay. Now I'm not going into details of this particular aspect, but Bully by is one app which has been published on uh, GitHub. Okay, and that app is an auction. It is doing an auction simulation, and it is taking pictures of some women from internet, and it is posting them as that these women are on sale. Okay, and specifically it belongs to one particular, the women are belonging to one particular religion in this particular case. Okay, now the question here is, as you can see, the scenario is this, that we have 5.8 million total Indian developers on GitHub. Okay, 1.8 new developers joined in only March, that is the last year due to pandemic. Okay, by the end of March 2021, and there is an 80% increase in the open source contribution from India. Okay, just a second. Prachi, please add your roll number and then relog in. I already mentioned that again and again. Please don't log in without your roll numbers as a prefix. Okay. Fine. And if you can see, we have 1 million developers who have created new repositories by the end of March 2021. Now, these repositories, as we all know, they are source codes per se. Yeah. And if you can look at the total GitHub repositories in the year 2021, we are having a 4 million repositories, almost 4 million. Okay, now look at this particular site. Cybercrime in India has increased by 0.8% in 2020, registering a total of 18,657 cases. Now this is the reported ones, okay, which have been actually reported, but it is possible that a lot of crimes have not been reported. And then computer related offenses accounted for 60.9% of cybercrime in 2020. Okay, now see, this term is very important, computer related offenses, which basically means computer has been used as a tool in some or other way. Okay, fine. Now if you look at this particular scenario, it is becoming a problematic scenario. Yeah. Now the question here is, as you can see, what is the GitHub's role in Bully by controversy? As I mentioned, it is an app, and generally we have platforms which allow you to deploy apps, isn't it? We have Google Play Store, we have app, Mac stores, even the vendors who are having their own stores. Say, for example, Samsung has its own store, yes, MI has its own store, yeah, and we can download apps from them. Now, if those apps are available to us, we generally mention that these apps will not be having issues of bugs, or if they are having issues of bugs, they'll be trying to solve it very faster. On the other hand, can we guarantee that the code repositories which are giving you apps, they'll be giving, when you say they will be giving you, if I talk about an Android app, they'll be giving an APK. I can install that APK in my machine, isn't it? That's not a problem. Yeah. So now comes first question to be asked is, can this be considered as a cyber crime, or can it be can what kind of security can be applied onto this? First of all, class, am I audible? Yeah. So can this be considered as a cyber crime? Deploying an app which is not authenticated by any platform provider. Can we consider this as an issue, as a cyber crime? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Mansi is also saying yes. Ruma is also saying yes. Why would you say yes? Ruma, Mansi, why would you say yes to this? That it can be considered a cyber crime or a security breach? If you look at the title again here, you can see here the first new online controversy of 2022. Okay. So as you mentioned, it has we have started with a controversy in terms of year. Okay. So I'm closing the slide. But why do you think, Ruma, Mansi, why do you think that particular, okay, Nishita is saying no, because procedure of deploying is same, but the way of using it is not legal or authenticated probably. Okay, so no in terms of what, Nishita? It is not a cyber crime. This is what you are trying to put forward, or it may not be considered. Okay, so Nishita is saying it will not be considered a cyber crime. Yes, I will agree with her that we may not consider this to be a cyber crime, because if a repository allows me to submit my source code, that is what I have done, and maybe I have done that in two manners. I have given the source code as well as I have given an executable. Yeah. So in that case, we don't have issues with respect to a crime, but we do have issues with respect to the security. Okay, so we have to now think of how do we solve it. So now we have to talk about regulations, that there has to be something. See, Facebook, say Google Play Store, or maybe the Facebooks, or maybe the Apple stores, they have their norms, they have their rules of what can be submitted, what cannot be submitted. Yeah. And in that particular case, they try to, even if something has been submitted which is illegal or wrong, they try to take it down as fast as possible. Yeah. But whatever damage it has done during that period, it has done. We cannot stop that part. So same way, what we can do at least here is we should have a regulation which makes sure that uh, in such cases, if whatever something like this, if it has happened, then we should be able to investigate it very fast, and we should be able to generate a solution. Okay. Understanding? And that is why this subject is becoming very, very important for a technical student, as well as for a non-technical students in today's context, to understand what things are and how things are. As you have already mentioned, see, a lot of students have asked me for accounts wherein they can open account on GitHub or maybe open account on everything. Why we are denying is this particular reason, because you never know at what time what will be uploaded and who will take the responsibility. That is a very big question that comes into picture. Okay, so with this thought of today's, as I showed, this is a live news today. Okay, and I most of the time do not come prepared for my sessions in terms of cyber security, because I know that every day I'll get one example from newspaper itself. So I have my newspapers on my desk, and as soon as I pick that, I am ready for my session. Okay, fine. So now let us look the topic from the point of view of the book that we are going to study. So the first chapter is talking about introduction to cyber crime. I'll just share it with you. Give me a moment. Yeah, is the screen visible? Okay, thank you. So fine, thank you very much, Priyanshi, Nishtha, Mansi. Okay, so we all know the term crime. Yes, we say something that is illegal, something that is not allowed per se with respect to law. That is, if we do that activity, we will call that activity as a crime. This is what we call. What we have added is one additional term in that, and that additional term is the statement of cyber, and we have already discussed why we are calling it as cyber in the last session. Okay, so in this particular chapter, as I mentioned, we'll be looking into certain scenarios. Now this is a book survey of something that is, we'll modify it later on when we start with the presentations and everything, but what um, this particular figure shows, this is a very old survey. As you can see, it's from 2008, and I've taken it from the book itself. But if you look, and it is only for Australia, okay, one particular area, not the entire world. But if you look, what it is saying is, I've taken this because it is from the book. We will be modifying it as and when required. So, as mentioned, it is saying that internet has undeniably opened a new ways of exploitation known as cybercrime, involving the use of computers, the internet, the cyberspace, and the www, that is the World Wide Web. Now, we have already mentioned this in the last session that today, because we are having a scenario of client and server, the server can be accessed from anywhere. I don't have to be physically present for near the server to access any contents of it. Okay, physical capturing of that particular device may be an issue, but in terms of data access or software access, that is always possible. Yeah. So if you look from this particular source or this particular figure, it is saying that you have a lot of things that has come into picture. So you can see what people are trying to do. Okay, illicit financial gains, this is one. Okay, we are not going into details of the percentage here. I'm not interested in the percentage. I'm interested in the terminologies. The first is financial gains, but then term is illicit. Okay, the utilize system resources for competitors. So it basically means utilizing someone else's resources and then doing some activity. A simple example of that would be an open Wi-Fi near your house, which you try to access and which you might have used. I think most of you must have done this activity, isn't it? किसी का वाईफाई enabled था और पासवर्ड उसका या तो आपको दिया गया था एक बार, या आपको आपने उससे पता कर लिया या कुछ होगा, तो you might have tried to access it. Okay, then commercial advantage, or gaining commercial advantage, then maybe for foreign government or political issues, it is using, it may be used for some political interests. Okay, I'll go into this some examples of this later on, We must have seen, we must have heard about news wherein Facebook has been accused of manipulating the US elections at times and so on. Okay, then maybe for personal grievances it is being used. Personal grievances, a simple example जो आप अभी तो बहुत बार देखते हैं सुनते हैं, जो पहले unseen था कि some there was a relation between a boy and a girl and then somehow it broke off, and then boy or girl, either of them, they posted some nuisance about that person with their images, with their morphed images and so on. So it can be used for this. Okay, unsolicited malicious damages which I might be intending to do to someone else. Okay, maybe to crash a system. Maybe I'd say, for example, there is one student who is not interested in helping the university or the institute, and he tries to disturb the websites. Okay, again a simple example of unsolicited malicious damages. To demonstrate one's skill, okay, the attacker's skill, that I am capable of doing this much thing, or I'm expert than you. We must have seen, or we must have heard that government websites have been defaced. The contents that were actually over there has been modified, and a new content has been kept by, and the announcement has been done that this has been done by me, or me means an individual or a group or an organization and something like that. Okay, so these are all common aspects that we are able to see now in today's context also. Then the next aspect is to utilize system resources to gain unauthorized access, which we already mentioned, that when we try to gain some information for from that particular system, irrespective of what we are going to do for it, maybe accidentally, or maybe to forcibly we are doing it. Okay, now in this particular case I might give you one simple example, because I have done my PhD in security. When I was doing it long back, what we used to do was, one of my colleagues here in the college who has left now, he and me, when Wi-Fi had started recently, what we used to do is we used to take our laptop and carry it across Ahmedabad, okay, on a bike or on a car, and then you will be surprised. And specifically, we were doing the survey for academic institutions, and you would be surprised that we were able to go into the systems of those institutions. Okay, because the concept of security was not that much strong post 2 decades. Okay, before 2 decades, when internet had actually started. So we actually were able to, we had published a paper on it also, and we actually were able to access data of our competitor colleges at times. Okay, I'm not naming them, but we were able to do that. Okay, intention was not bad in our case. Okay, and then it might be used for indiscriminate attacks for any unknown purposes or for any known purposes. So this is what actually started as soon as we started using the www, that is the World Wide Web. Okay, now with respect to that particular context, there are different definitions of the term cybercrime. Okay, now these definitions have been given by different organizations and different things, but most of them have certain things that they are relating. Okay, now if you look at the definition, it is saying any illegal act where a special knowledge of computer technology is essential for its perpetration, investigation, or prosecution. Now, if you look at this particular three terms, they are very legal in terms of the law. Okay, what do you mean by the first word? Can someone tell me? Perpetration. Can someone tell me what is perpetration? Class? Not aware of that term. Okay, Nishta is not aware of that term. No problem. Okay, perpetration basically means to perform that act. So, for example, I can take multiple examples here to just make you a idea, give you an idea. And say, for example, today if I receive, yesterday there was a news in the paper, which I Divya Bhaskar, yeah, that a businessman got a call, a missed call. Okay, and after getting that missed call, his cell phone went dead, his SIM card went dead. Okay, and immediately after that activity, 46 lakhs were removed from his account from the bank. Okay, now if you look at this particular thing, someone wanted to take away money from the businessman. What did he do? He used technology. Okay, today it is now today computer technology is synonymous with communication technology also. Okay, so he had to be aware about how these things are to be done, and that is what we mean. Okay, now if I want to catch this guy, I will have to do investigation. The authorities will have to do investigation, and for doing this investigation, the authorities will have to find out from where this particular activity of sim where did the call come from, the missed call come from. Okay, which tower it was used from, maybe which sim it was used from, etc, etc, etc. Now to get all these things, or to do all these things, what you require is a knowledge of, again, technology. Okay, and then if I want to prosecute, if I want to, मेरे को अगर उसको सजा देनी है, इन्वेस्टिगेशन इज वन पार्ट, लेकिन उसके बाद सजा देनी होती है, so that is what we say प्रोसिक्यूशन. ओके, तो अगर मुझे सजा, प्रोसिक्यूशन के बाद सजा मिल भी सकती है, सजा नहीं भी मिल सकती है. इफ इज फाउंड गिल्टी ही विल बी गिवन penalty. If he is not found guilty, he will not be given a penalty, isn't it? So that is what we are talking about in terms of this crime. But the definitions, if you go to net and look for definitions, there will be millions of definitions that you are going to get. But all terms that relate to cyber crime is this: one, computer related crime. Okay, second is computer crime. Third is internet crime. We also have a term which we call as e-crime, electronic crime. Okay, and then the last term that has been added is something that you call as high-tech crime. Today we also have another term wherein we call it as digital crime. Okay, digital crime. Yeah, now I have been mentioning this again. We must have heard about the MG cards. Yes, it mentions something at the back of their cards. It says internet inside. Yeah, I think you must have seen this. If a car has gone, MG is in front of you. Okay, so Ruma is asking, so by this definition, isn't bully by controversy a cyber crime? Yes. Now I will modify my definition. Ruma, you are very correct. Because we have considered all these aspects, I can definitely say, or I can definitely put or categorize this particular controversy as a cyber crime. Okay. And that is why the issues are there. That what, see, we always say don't download from unauthenticated sources, isn't it? The only reason for saying that is you never know what has been posted by there. You see, you people must have downloaded so many themes from internet without even bothering whether there is a backdoor or not. Okay, in your projects or in your any entries. When I say backdoor, it's a simple code which gives access to someone who has designed this particular theme to whatever you are doing. Because you, if you don't go through that particular code properly, okay, then possibly you are leading someone to your code. That's always a possibility, and that is always, I say, that is the reason I always say to my students that if possible, try to code things on your own. Don't use something which is already existing, unless and until it is from an authenticated source. Okay. So now, if you add this term internet inside, let me come back to the topic. When I hear this term internet inside, I again always think of this term as crime. Okay, when I say crime, I'm not saying always, but possibility of a crime. Possibility of a crime inside. What if someone hacks into the system of your car and manipulates it? Today, these things 10 years down the line, if I had spoken, people were laughing. Today, when I speak the same statement, people do not laugh because they know that this is possible now. Okay. We are using IoT based devices sitting at home. In my we must have seen advertisements of Amitabh Bachchan sitting at a lounge in airport and then manipulating his AC's temperature. Yeah, if he can do sitting from there, I can also do. And not when I'm saying I can also do, I can manipulate his system. Only thing is I need to have an access. Yeah. So that is what is in today's context we call as cybercrime. Okay. So definitions per se will vary, but the main important part is this, that we need to have a knowledge, a special knowledge of computer technology. Today, even though when we say special knowledge, we might not talk about knowledge in terms of programming, knowledge in terms of hardware, knowledge in terms of softwares. We may also talk today in terms of only operation. I know how to use this particular application very well, and I found out the flaws in them. In that case, also things are done. Okay, that will be more than enough for me. Okay, any questions here? Okay, let me move forward. So, how do you define, or what are the cyber crimes that have been defined by the author? So, types of attacks, they have been defined as two. One is considered to be techno crime. So, the term techno is coming from our technology. And second has been defined as vandalism, techno vandalism. Okay. So, we always know these terms are again a normal terms, but what we have added is a prefix, that is techno. Okay. And what does this definition say? Technocrime definition: an act against a system, a single system, or multiple systems with intent to. Now, so you can see the intent. What is the intent? Copy, steal, prevent, access. That is, I can put this as a or also corrupt or otherwise deface or damage parts or complete computer system. Now when I say computer system over here, I can now modify this term to digital system. Now this why digital system? It might be a phone, that is, it might be now today a phone, as we have discussed in the last session. It might be a access point, it might be a router, it might be a bridge, it might be any device that is part of this entire world wide web. Okay, so that is what we call it as a techno crime. But you can see the intent over here. Intent is this: copy, steal, prevent, corrupt, or otherwise deface. Okay, this is what we call as a techno crime. Now let me take an example for you, a very brief example, and we can, if we can say, or if we can classify them as uh, crime or vandalism. Let me first define vandalism. As you can see over here, it's generally known as a brainless act of defacement of websites or other activities, okay, such as copying files or publicizing their contents publicly, or maybe generally they are opportunities in nature. So I think you must have heard about something called whistleblower. Yeah, have you heard about this term? Someone is known as whistleblower. Yeah. Oh, and you must have seen this happening with websites. Okay, there is a website which does some activity and which says that okay, there was something wrong, or there was some leakage is done, some leak of files are done which are important to maybe government or to organization or to a person and so on. Okay, so these kind of things, they are called as vandalism in general. Okay, now let me give you 2 3 examples, and then we can try to classify them, whether we can convert it, or we can classify them as techno crime, or we can classify that as a techno vandalism. Okay, now suppose there was just a moment, someone wants to come. Okay, so there was a scenario wherein you have an exam which is going to be taken online. Okay, and question paper for that exam has been published, which is not accessible to the users at as of now. But then some person hacks into the system, or goes into the system, and then displays this question paper on the website. How will you classify it? It is a cyber crime. Classification one or two: vandalism or crime, a normal crime. क्वेश्चन समझ में आ गया? Okay, Nishta is saying vandalism. What about others? Okay, techno vandalism. Muskan is also saying that. Why not techno crime? Why not classify? It is crime, definitely. It is a cyber crime, but why not classify it as a techno crime, and why specify as a techno vandalism? There was an excess, yes, but what was the intention? Intention was publicizing the contents, okay, and hence we are considering this as techno vandalism. It doesn't damage, but it makes publicly available. Uh, yeah, publicly available. Very good, Mansi. But see, Nishta, if you are saying it does not damage, it has done a damage actually. The reputation of the institution or the organization that is going to host will be tarnished. That is one part. Not only that part, the efforts in terms of creating the paper, people are paid, isn't it? So that amount has been wasted. So there is a financial loss also, so financial damage also. But opposite, the person is not gaining anything. Whoever is doing this, he is not gaining anything. He is simply trying to deface. He is simply trying to put the organization, the other organization, at shame. He does not want to earn anything from it. Okay, that's why we are putting it in this particular manner. And another example I am taking, which is again a live, I'm not giving the names and I'm not putting the dates over there, but that is again a live example or a real life scenario. Okay, I think everybody must have visited hospitals today. ICUs they must have seen, or maybe a normal emergency rooms of hospitals. Yes. Yeah, and today we also have a concept which we call as telemedicine, isn't it? So WhatsApp पे डॉक्टर से बात करना, that is an example of telemedicine. Okay, remotely किसी patient को treat करना using maybe a WhatsApp call or video call, that could be considered as a telemedicine today. Yeah. Okay. Now most of the devices that are used in the emergency rooms of hospitals today are connected. Okay, BP monitor होता है, dosage monitors होता है. In US, most of them have been Wi-Fi enabled or have been converted to Wi-Fi enabled because they try to monitor the patient using a dashboard in a single room. Okay. Now, in such a case where I am having a connectivity of this devices which is monitoring a critical patient, and a patient was supposed to be given a 5 ml of a particular dosage of a particular injection, and someone modifies that 5 ml to 50 ml, and due to that there is a death of the person who was supposed to be injected this particular amount. Now injection might be given by a nurse, okay, but the amount was reflected on the screen. What will you call this as an example? It has caused a death, and I'm talking about this as a real life scenario. A drug peddler, a boss of an organization, was actually killed using this particular mechanism. Okay, Nishta is saying it is a crime. Definitely crime. Why? Because the intention was to harm someone. Yeah, but this harming is not losing a face. This harming is actually a life of a person. Yeah. So at times there can be a little borders between the two aspects. That is, can we put it in vandalism or can we put it in crime? So we have to look at this particular aspect. कि भाई वो करना क्या चाह रहा था? Was he trying to get any gain out of it? Okay, killing someone has to be having a motive. There could be a gain. Okay, so that particular part is definitely to be considered. Okay. Then next term, which is becoming very popular today, is cyber terrorism. It has been defined as any person, individual, group, or an organization who, with a terrorist intent, utilizes, accesses, or aids in accessing a computer or a network or an electronic system or electronic devices by any available means, and thereby knowingly engages in an attempts to engage in terrorist act, okay, and commits the offense of cyber terrorism. Now, generally, when we say terrorism, we are talking about an act against a state, a city, a country, a government. Okay, it will not be generally an act against a person, an organization. It will be more related to government. Are we clear? So now, if I look from the previous slide scenario, it is possible that I will be able to classify the cyber crime as maybe cyber vandalism, and that vandalism may be at times an act of cyber terrorism. Okay, that is one thing that we need to look into. I'm not going to details of this definition. We, in Indian context, we have created a regulation, safeguard, as you can say, for punishing people who are doing or indulging into cybercrime. If you go through the laws properly, you will come to know that I think 80 or 90% of the activities that we do may fall under this particular act. Again, we may be punishable. So that is one particular part that we have to be very careful about. But Indian law or Indian Act is known as Indian Information Technology Act, which is ITA 2008. It was first created in 2008, and that is what gave the idea. It goes on amending. People keep on adding new things into it. Addendum. It is what is called as addendum, and as and when things go. Or things change, scenarios change, certain things are added into it. Okay, say one more thing that has happened. So I'll give one another example also, which is a very interesting one in this particular context, in today's context. Okay, and it is also related to this. So what is the idea behind this particular IT act is that, as I mentioned, we also the last I think amendment was done in 2021. I'm exactly 2022 was sure. I'm not sure of 2021 it was modified or not, because of pandemic they were thinking of modifying the act. I've not gone through it as of now, whether those changes have happened or not. Okay, so as we add or we amend, we modify this number 2008 to whatever is the latest aspects. Okay, what does it give you? It gives you कि आपने अगर ऐसा किया तो आप पे क्या क्या पनिशमेंट्स हो सकती है और कौन से कलम के अंडर में हो सकती है. यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड अबाउट आईपीसी, इजंट इट? इंडियन पिनल कोड, जिसके अंदर हमने कोर्ट मूवीज में तो सबने सुना होगा, धारा 302, धारा 420, सुना है ना? 302 is for murder, 420 is for cheating, and so on. So there's these numbers, they reflect a act, illegal act, and we also have इस चीज को हम इलीगल बोलेंगे अगर इस तरह से हुआ है तो, और उसके साथ साथ उसके अगर वैसा किसी ने किया है तो हाउ इज पनिशेबल, ये सारी चीजें इसमें होती हैं. ओके, so we'll be looking into there'll be one presentation on this who will be giving us some insights about this IT Act. Okay, what do we mean by this term cybersecurity? We already discussed in the last session, but in general, cyber crime we have discussed. When we say cybersecurity, what we are trying to do is we are trying to protect what? Maybe information. I already mentioned that. Equipment or devices, maybe a computer resource, maybe a communication device, maybe an information stored within that particular communication device from unauthorized access. So it should not be accessible to someone who is not authorized to access. This is what we are trying to do in terms of when we say cyber security. Okay. Now I'm going a bit fast for this because most of you might be knowing it. So in case you have any doubts or in case you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. Now, how do we relate these two terms, cybercrime and information security? Okay, now you can see here this term is information security. Okay, our subject name is cyber security. In the last session I have mentioned something like host security, I mentioned like network security. Yeah, I said that when I talk about host security, there could be a scenario of securing a physical entity, or there could be a scenario of securing maybe the software or maybe the data. So when I try to maybe secure data part, I'll call it as an information security. Okay. So if we try to if I am a consultant and I'm trying to identify, say for example, I'm a security officer of my organization and I'm trying to identify whether it has created a loss or not for me in an organization, what I should look at, because there are a number of challenges. First, what it is saying is data get lost, stolen every time and any time. Okay. Then there would be security incidences, including cybercrime. We are not only talking about cybercrime. I'll take an examples of that. Then there are attacks which are very popular, and most of the breaches happen because of this attack. That is insiders attack. And last and foremost, what is the awareness about data privacy in your organization? Okay. So do we have a written policy? Do we have statements which gives you as a user insight about what is to be done by you and what is not to be done by you? If I look from Indian context, we still are in process of developing the routine aspects. Okay, when I say routine aspects, I'm talking about say universities like us. We have not put out a detailed aspect of what should be do's and what should be don'ts when you are accessing. We have listed it in a small manner, but we are not listed it in terms of a detailed manner. Okay, but if you go to foreign universities, they'll be having a complete, structured, detailed aspect of what you are supposed to do when you are in lab, what will happen if you do something other than what has been mentioned, who will be responsible for taking action against you, how you will be penalized, and everything. That is a list available to you. Okay, but we are still growing. Okay, now if I take this as an examples, okay, these are going to become a challenge because see, data gets stolen or lost. If someone is reporting that, then things are okay, fine. Take a simple example. If, for example, I am saying, okay, if I am hosting a question paper of internal examination, maybe on my local media over here, and one of you copies it in a pen drive, because I have not mentioned that pen drive should not be used in the lab. Will I consider it as a loss of data? Will I consider it as a loss of data or not? Class, intentional loss maybe. Okay, intentional loss. Fine. If my aim was no, it is stolen. Okay. So if it is stolen, it is lost for me, na? If someone steals the data, it is a loss, isn't it? It is a loss. It has been stolen. Either of them. So stolen and lost for us may vary. As Mansi was very correct. It has been taken by someone intentionally. That is one part. Second part could be I have copied a pen drive myself of that particular paper. I wanted to print it at home and I lose that pen drive at some place. That's a classic example of a loss, isn't it? But in both cases, the data which was supposed to be protected is now unprotected. It may be used by someone, it may not be used by someone. We are not concerned about that. Okay. Now, does this particular event has any financial loss to the organization, has any personal loss, has any emotional loss, etc., etc.? What type of losses we can define? If that impact of that loss is too high for an organization, then definitely it is going to create a problem. Yeah. Now, security incidents, when we talk about them, we have been mentioning कि पेन ड्राइव, जिसे ये पेन ड्राइव अलाउ करनी नहीं थी, लेकिन पेन ड्राइव लेके आ गया है अंदर. Okay, today pen drive size has gone a miniature entity. Even my pen can contain a pen drive. So if someone comes with a pen and then puts a pen drive, I will not be able to stop, isn't it? So what mechanism should I have to protect myself as an organization? Let me take an example for you. अगर हम इसरो में जाते हैं, आपने इसरो का नाम तो सुना ही है, yes? To keep things password protected. Very correct. It may be password protected, but if someone is capable of copying it, there is a loss, na? Making some rules. Very correct, Mansi. Say, for example, I'll give you one example of one rule, one or two rules for you. ISRO, if you have seen the office at Ahmedabad, भावनी रिजन के सामने इसरो की ऑफिस देखी है सबने? Admin permission. Yes, Dhaval. Very correct. So I may disable maybe the pen drives, disable ports. Very good. Also, so I may disable ports of every machine. That is one part, the simplest part. But then, what if I want to internally do this particular activities? या मेरे employees को ये काम करने को allow करना है मुझे students को नहीं करना था, लेकिन मुझे faculties को ये allow करना है, तो मैं disable तो नहीं कर सकता उस समय पूरा सब कुछ. So I have to go for now rules. Yeah, restricted to few. Yes, very good. So I have to now go for rules. But then as soon as I go for rules, कि किसको restrict करना है, किसको restrict नहीं करना है, okay, things actually become complicated at times. Okay. So a simplest option could be out of this, जो आप बोल रहे हो कि ठीक है, लेकिन जैसे ही पेन ड्राइव किसी भी मशीन में एक्सेस हो, एडमिन को एक कंट्रोल रूम में या एक पैनल में या कहीं पे भी उसको एक मैसेज मिल जाना चाहिए कि ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर डिवाइस समवन इज ट्राइंग टू एक्सेस द पोर्ट. ओके, अलर्ट आना चाहिए, निष्ठा, एज यू आर सेइंग. ओके, सो वी कैन क्रिएट दैट काइंड ऑफ मैकेनिज्म. टुडे दैट काइंड ऑफ मैकेनिज्म्स आर अवेलेबल. ओके, we have protocols which is called SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol, which can be used to create such kind of a application. They two-step verification also is possible. We don't deny on that particular part, but जितना हम verification के levels increase करेंगे उतना अपनी complexity बढ़ती जाती है. Okay, so for example, if I'm saying if I put a two-step verification which is something like I have to remember my password and I also have to remember an answer to a particular question, तो अब मैं पासवर्ड ही भूलता रहता हूँ बार बार, तो मुझे क्वेश्चंस भी याद रहने की संभावना बहुत कम हो जाती है. एंड इफ आई हैव डन दैट एट maybe 20 websites or 20 places, things become complicated for me as a user also. So we have to keep things balanced for both users as well as the providers. Okay, so this is what we have to look into in terms of security aspects. Okay, or security incidences. Insider attacks, they are very common. As I mentioned, when I say insider attacks, these are the attacks done by the employees, people, persons of the organization who are part of that organization, and they generally are disgruntled. When I say disgruntled, they are not happy with the organizations, and you will find these people everywhere, isn't it? You cannot satisfy. See, I, for example, cannot satisfy all the, how many students are attending? 46 including me. So 45 students sitting here, I will not be able to satisfy each of them by my session. Okay. क्लास में सुबह 8 बच्चे थे, मैं गया तब एक ही बच्चा बैठा था. 7 बच्चों को मैं पसंद ही नहीं आता हूँ. They don't like my face. They don't like sitting in front of me, isn't it? So then how do I help it? So there is no option. And most of the attacks that happen, they happen because of the inside help. So that is why we are calling them as insider attacks. Okay. Then awareness about data privacy, as I mentioned. Okay, everybody should know what is the data privacy scenario of that organization. If we don't give, we'll be talking about an example of creating a data privacy policy also. I'll give you an assignment on that. You can go to web and search and then try to create a data privacy policy for us of the organization, and then we'll see how it can be modified. Okay, so this is what this is how basically the two terms are related. If you look from an angle of again the 2008 data, this has changed a lot. Okay, what are the misuses that happen on a network? Okay, when I say that happen on a network, we are talking about an organizational aspect. So people listen to radio, people stream audio, people stream video, people do file sharing, people use instant messaging, online gaming, online gambling. Now, if I have provided you internet in my office or in my organization or in our college, these things are not academic. Yes, these are all misuses. Okay, now why we are calling them as misuses? As you can see, because of these things, it is possible that we might be affected with the virus. We might have bots. We might get DNS, that is domain name system issues. We might come into financial frauds. We might generate a backdoor for unauthorized access. Yeah. Okay. Today, for if I take as an example in today's context, we are giving you access to our labs using any desk from home. Yeah. Don't you think this is a scope? There is a scope of error in this. There is always a scope of error, isn't it? If you can connect to me, if you intentionally or unintentionally share the data with someone, he or she also might be able to connect to us. And as I mentioned, integrity part, we don't know as of today. I'll not be able to justify anything, isn't it? Yeah. So these are the issues that actually happen. And as I already mentioned, these are you are not supposed to do this on a corporate network. When I say corporate, it might be a university, it might be office that you are working, because this consumes bandwidth. So if a corporate is paying for your bandwidth, they are not expecting you to visit this. There are many other things that can be part of it in today's context. Okay. So now comes the question, who will we call as cyber criminals? So there is a list again. This list is a generic list. It may be having addition or subtraction. Okay. On top is something that you in India is forbidden, that is child pornography. Second is credit card frauds. Now instead of saying credit card frauds, we can talk or we can say financial frauds, because with this, if you look at this list is prior to the valet scenarios, prior to the mobile what you can say payment system scenarios. Hence, it is only having credit card frauds. Today, we can have this can be converted into a financial fraud with respect to a valet, with respect to any digital entity. Okay, and with blockchain or cryptocurrency coming into market, again that can be a scenario. Then next is something that you call as a cyber stalking, wherein you try to follow. Stalking basically means trying to follow someone without his permission, observing what he is doing, following him and doing. So same way you talk about cyber stalking. So you get a friend request from someone, he starts posting messages for you, and आपको उसकी जरूरत भी नहीं है उस मैसेज की, but still he keeps on pestering you and so on. Maybe defaming another someone online, so posting some bad things about, he becomes your friend on Facebook and posts on your posts something which is defamatory, maybe an image or maybe something. Okay, when you try to gain unauthorized access to any computer system, as I already mentioned, this can be today converted to a digital system. Okay, then maybe ignoring copyrights, software licensing and trademark protections. This is where I am talking about you people download themes but then modify the creator's name, डिजाइंड बाय अपना नाम लिख देते हो, या कितनी बार ऐसा होता है, आप ऐसा नहीं लिखते हो कि डिजाइंड बाय दिस एंड मॉडिफाइड बाय मी, ऐसा नहीं लिखते हो. So that part again is, you may become, or you may at times be considered as a cyber criminal, as I mentioned. Okay, overriding and encryption to make illegal copies. I think Windows में सबने देखा होगा, you are looking for cracks of the system. क्रैक कोड्स मिलते थे, उसको आप यूज करते थे, किए ना, फॉर डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सॉफ्टवेयर क्रैक कोड्स यूज किए ना. आई थिंक 90% ऑफ द क्लास मस्ट हैव डन. या Yeah. So if you have done that, then you fall under this category. Okay. Lucky we are all not being penalized. Okay. Then software piracy and stealing another identity to perform criminal acts. Now this is one, maybe I'll not say stealing another's identity to perform criminal acts, but then a classic example which I would like to give you, which Facebook profile, instead of my photo, I'm having photo of maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger, or maybe a female is having a photo of whoever she likes, he or she, Jennifer Lopez or maybe Deepika Padukone or whatever. प्रोफाइल किसका है? मेरा. और फोटो किसका दिख रहा है? किसी और का. Have I taken a permission from that person that I can use your profile, your photo as my profile photo? Don't you think this is a crime also? Yes. Dev is saying yes. Utsav is also saying yes. Dhaval is also saying. Mansi is also saying. So आज के बाद कभी भी ऐसा करना मत. अपना फोटो, उसके अलावा आपके साथ किसी और का है, आपके फैमिली मेंबर्स का, फ्रेंड्स का, दैट इज ओके, बिकॉज यू आर पार्ट ऑफ दैट फोटो. यू कैन अज्यूम दैट यू हैव टेकन द परमिशन. या आपके फैमिली मेंबर्स का है तो वी कैन अज्यूम दैट यू माइट हैव टेकन द परमिशन, बट अदर देन दैट डोंट हैव एनी अदर फोटोज. यस, राइट टू प्राइवेसी. वेरी गुड. So, but then all these things are part of our, and that is why I mentioned कि अगर आप ये सब्जेक्ट पढ़ोगे तो आपको ऐसा लगेगा कि जो 90% काम हम कंप्यूटर्स या मोबाइल्स या फेसबुक पे या किसी पे भी कर रहे हैं, we might be considered as a cyber criminals. Okay, fine. Okay, so if you have any queries, I'm having a blank slide for it. If not, we will stop for today's session. Any queries, people? Okay, no queries for now. For Nishta, what about other 44? Okay, ठीक. No. 3 no's, 4 no's. ठीक. Okay, thanks then. We'll stop for today's session. Okay. Tomorrow we'll continue with who actually will be calling me cyber criminals and what are their scenarios. Okay. So there are multiple types that we'll be looking at. Okay, thank you very much. You may stop. You may leave the session. Dev, cyber security is same as hacking course. मतलब हाँ, ये सब आपने हैकिंग के कोर्स में पढ़ा होगा. हाँ, दैट इज करेक्ट. क्योंकि हैकिंग के कोर्स में जब हैकिंग का कोर्स करते हो, एथिकल हैकर्स बनने की कोशिश करते हो, तब आपको पहले तो ये पता होना चाहिए कि आप क्या कर सकते हो. That is why you might have heard about this or you might have learned about this. Static IP address. Jay, what do you want to know about it? We may discuss it when we talk about networking aspects sometimes, Jay. Okay? Okay, thank you.